7 Invisible Games. How your mind plays you before anyone else does. You are being played right now, not by someone across from you, by someone inside you. And the cruelest part? You set up the board yourself. Every move you think is yours, every choice, every reaction, every carefully defended belief is a response to a game that started long before you were conscious enough to know you were playing. The real horror isn't that people manipulate each other. It's that we're all sleepwalking through pre-scripted patterns, calling them free will. Welcome to the architecture of self-deception, where the house always wins because you are the house. Part 1. The first game. The mask you call a face. Let's start where most people are too afraid to look. You believe you know yourself. You've built an identity. Your likes, your values, your boundaries, your aesthetic, your wounds, your triumphs. You wear it like armor. You introduce yourself with it. You defend it in arguments. You update it on social media. But here's the thing about armor. It's hollow. Peel back the performance you call personality, and you'll find something far more unsettling. You'll find a collection of survival strategies dressed up as character traits. This is the first game, the one you play with your own reflection. Jung called it the persona, the mask we present to the world. But he also warned that the longer you wear the mask, the more it fuses with your face. You forget where the performance ends and where you begin. You become the lie. And that lie becomes the cornerstone of every relationship you enter, every decision you make, every desire you think is yours. Think about who you are at work: the competent professional, the team player, the ambitious climber. Now think about who you are with your family. Different voice, different posture, different tolerance levels. Now think about who you are alone at 3 in the morning when no one's watching. Which one is real? The answer is none of them, and all of them. You're a multiplicity masquerading as a unity, a parliament of selves pretending to be a dictator. From cult leaders to toxic partners to political manipulators, the mechanics are fundamentally similar. They all exploit invisible levers built into the human psyche. But here's what no one tells you. Those levers are already being pulled by you. You've rigged the game before anyone else walks into the room. The persona isn't just what you show others, it's what you show yourself. You've crafted an internal narrative about who you are, and you protect it with the ferocity of a parent protecting a child. Because if that story collapses, what's left? This is where the shadow enters, not as some evil twin, but as the repository of everything you've exiled from your self-concept. Every quality you labeled unacceptable, every impulse you deemed shameful, every part of yourself that didn't fit the image you needed to survive. You project what you've disowned. That anger you can't admit, you see it in others. That greed you've buried beneath generosity, you despise it in everyone around you. That sexuality you've repressed, it becomes the thing you judge most harshly in strangers. The shadow isn't some mystical demon. It's the trash heap of every part of yourself you labeled unacceptable, and it leaks. Every judgment you make about someone else is a confession. Every enemy is a mirror you refuse to look into. Every time you say, "I would never do that," you're marking exactly what you fear you're capable of. The game isn't about being good or bad. It's about recognizing that your psyche is a stage, and you're performing for an audience of ghosts. Your mother's disappointment, your father's expectations, the bullies from middle school, the culture that raised you. They're all still in the theater, still watching, still shaping what you allow yourself to be. And here's where it gets darker. The more you deny the shadow, the more power it has. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't die. It just operates underground. It becomes the saboteur, the part of you that ruins relationships the moment they get too close, that torpedoes success right before you achieve it, that picks fights you can't win for reasons you can't explain. You are at war with yourself, and you're losing to an enemy you refuse to acknowledge exists. Part 2. The game of borrowed desire. You think you want things. You don't. You want what you've been told to want. Desire itself is outsourced. This is the second game. And it's more insidious than the first because it feels authentic. You pursue careers, partners, lifestyles, body types, experiences, and you believe they're yours. But trace them back, follow the thread. Most desires are inherited, adopted, downloaded like software you never questioned. You want the corner office because achievement was coded as love in your childhood. You want the relationship that looks perfect on paper because you've been taught that appearances equal reality. You want financial security because you watched your parents fight about money and swore you'd never live that way. You want to be seen as intelligent, attractive, successful, kind, not because these qualities fulfill you, but because their absence terrified you. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Control what people want, and you don't need chains. You need stories, symbols, status markers. Make them chase an image of success that requires your product, your approval, your system, and they'll enslave themselves. They'll work themselves to exhaustion. They'll sacrifice their time, their health, their relationships, and they'll call it ambition. Manipulators craft environments where victims unknowingly exploit vulnerabilities like trust, empathy, and the human need for connection. But the first manipulator is culture itself. Before anyone gaslights you in a relationship, you've been gaslit by an entire civilization that told you what happiness looks like, what success smells like, what love should cost. You've been taught to want safety over truth, comfort over growth, validation over self-knowledge, belonging over authenticity. And the horrifying part? You defend these borrowed desires as if they're sacred. You'll fight anyone who questions them, not because they're yours, but because admitting they're not would collapse the entire architecture of who you think you are. Consider this. How many of your goals would exist if you lived alone on an island with no one to impress? How many of your fears would evaporate if no one could judge you? How many of your daily behaviors are performed solely for an invisible audience that may not even be watching? You're chasing ghosts, running on a treadmill someone else built. And the tragedy is that you'll reach every goal and still feel empty, because the wanting was never yours to begin with. René Girard called this mimetic desire. We don't want objects. We want what others want. We desire through the desires of others. That's why advertising works, why social media is addictive, why keeping up with the Joneses is a universal human disease. We're not individuals with autonomous wants. We're mirrors reflecting mirrors, caught in an infinite regression of borrowed longing. And here's the violence of it. You've spent your entire life building toward things you don't actually want. You've made sacrifices for achievements that mean nothing to you. You've contorted yourself into shapes that please people whose opinions you don't even respect. All because you confuse the map for the territory, the symbol for the thing itself. The car isn't freedom. The degree isn't intelligence. The relationship isn't love. The body isn't worthiness. But you've been conditioned to believe that acquiring the symbol will give you the feeling. and it never does. It can't. Because the feeling you're chasing isn't in the object. It's in the fantasy of finally being enough. And enough is a finish line that doesn't exist. Part 3. The Ego's Empire. Let me tell you what the ego really is. It's not confidence. It's not self-esteem. It's not even selfishness. It's a border guard, a paranoid one. Its only job is to protect the story you've built about yourself. And it will sacrifice your happiness, your relationships, your sanity, even your life to do it. This is the third game, the fortress you've mistaken for a home. The ego doesn't care if you're right. It cares if you're consistent. It would rather you be wrong 1,000 times than admit you were wrong once, because that admission threatens the entire narrative, and the narrative is all it has. Think about the last time someone criticized you, really criticized you, not in a gentle, constructive way, but in a way that struck at the core of how you see yourself. What happened? Did you open up and consider their perspective? Or did every defense system you have activate simultaneously? Did your heart rate spike? Did your mind immediately start building counter-arguments, cataloging their flaws, preparing your rebuttal? That's not you defending the truth. That's the ego defending its territory. This is why people double down on failing relationships, why they defend beliefs that make them miserable, why they repeat the same self-destructive patterns and call it loyalty or principle or just who I am. The ego isn't guarding you, it's guarding itself. Alan Watts said it beautifully. The ego is a social institution with no physical reality, the most strongly defended illusion there is. It's a construct, a useful fiction we created to navigate the social world. But we've turned it into a tyrant. We've given it veto power over our lives, and it uses that power to keep us small, predictable, and safe from the one thing it fears most, change. Because change means death, not physical death, ego death, the dissolution of the character you've been playing. And to the ego, that's the same thing. This is why transformation is so rare, why people prefer misery they know to happiness they don't, why someone will stay in an abusive relationship, a soul-crushing job, a toxic belief system, because leaving means admitting that the previous version of themselves was wrong. And the ego can't allow that. It will literally choose suffering over growth if growth requires admitting it was mistaken. And here's where it gets dark. The ego doesn't just protect you from external threats, it protects you from yourself. From the truths you already know but refuse to acknowledge. From the person you could become if you let the performance die. From the potential that terrifies you more than any failure ever could. You know the relationship is over. The ego keeps you fighting for it. You know the career path is wrong. The ego reminds you of the sunk costs. You know you're living inauthentically. The ego shows you all the people who depend on your performance. The ego is a brilliant lawyer. It can justify anything, rationalize everything. It will rewrite history, reframe reality, and recruit every cognitive bias in the book to maintain the illusion of its own correctness. You are living in an empire built on denial, and denial is exhausting. It takes constant energy to maintain a false self, to police your thoughts, to curate your expressions, to make sure the mask never slips. That exhaustion you feel, that chronic fatigue that no amount of sleep fixes, it's not depression. It's the cost of being someone you're not. Part 4. The Game of Mirrors. How others become your instruments. Now we enter the territory most people call manipulation. But let's be precise. Manipulation isn't something that happens to you. It's something that happens through you, through the cracks you've already created. This is the fourth game. The one where your wounds become weapons in someone else's hands. Every master manipulator knows this. You don't control people by force. You control them by understanding what they're already desperate to believe, what they're already telling themselves, what story they need to be true, and then you cast them as the protagonist. Manipulators exploit human vulnerabilities, including emotions, trust, and cognitive biases that make it difficult for victims to recognize what's happening. But here's the mechanism. They're not creating these vulnerabilities. They're scanning for them, reading you like a text, finding the fault lines in your self-concept and setting up camp there. Gaslighting works not because someone tells you lies, but because you've already doubted yourself. They're just amplifying a frequency that's already playing. If you had complete confidence in your perception of reality, gaslighting would bounce off you like light off a mirror. But you don't. You've been taught to doubt yourself, to defer to others, to believe that your emotions make you unreliable. So when someone systematically undermines your reality, they're not building a new prison. They're just locking the doors on one you've already constructed. Love bombing works not because the affection is real, but because you're starving for it. They're filling a void, and the void was there first. If you had secure attachment, healthy self-worth, and genuine self-love, excessive attention would feel suspicious, not flattering. But you don't. You're hungry, and they're offering a feast. The fact that it's poisoned only becomes clear after you've already eaten. Guilt manipulation works not because you've done something wrong, but because you've been conditioned to believe your needs are selfish. That taking up space is a sin. That saying no is cruelty. So when someone weaponizes your guilt, they're not installing new software. They're running a program your childhood already wrote. The narcissist finds your need for validation. The psychopath finds your empathy. The codependent finds your savior complex. The emotional vampire finds your guilt. They don't create these needs. They exploit them. And here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. You're doing the same thing. Maybe not consciously, maybe not maliciously, but you're using people to meet needs you won't acknowledge. You're projecting roles onto them without their consent. You cast your partner as your therapist, your child as your purpose, your friend as your mirror, your enemy as your justification. We are all, to some degree, using each other as props in our private psychological theaters. But here's the twist you won't hear anywhere else. The person manipulating you is often just as trapped as you are. They're playing from their own wounds, their own survival strategies, their own unexamined shadows. The narcissist is terrified of worthlessness. The manipulator is terrified of powerlessness. The emotional abuser is terrified of abandonment. They're not villains. They're trauma survivors who never healed. And now they're spreading their infection. This doesn't excuse the behavior. It contextualizes it. And context is power. Because once you see the pattern, you stop taking it personally. You see it for what it is, a game that requires your participation to function. The manipulator can only manipulate you if you give them something to work with. A fear, a need, an unhealed wound, an unquestioned belief. When you stop playing, the game collapses. Not because you fight, not because you expose them, but because you remove the only thing that makes manipulation possible: your unconscious participation. Part 5. The addiction to certainty. We've arrived at the 5th game, and this one might be the hardest to accept. You are addicted to being right. Not because truth matters to you, but because uncertainty is unbearable. The human mind is a meaning-making machine. It doesn't tolerate ambiguity well. It will invent answers rather than sit with not knowing. And those invented answers feel as real as bone, as solid as physics, even when they're pure fiction. This is why conspiracy theories spread, why people cling to abusive relationships, why you'll defend a bad decision just because you made it. The mind prefers a bad map to no map at all. Consider what happens when something inexplicable occurs. A tragedy, a betrayal, a random stroke of bad luck. Your mind can't just let it be random. It needs a reason, a narrative, a villain. So it constructs one. It finds patterns in chaos, assigns intention to accident, turns correlation into causation, and suddenly the world makes sense again. Never mind that the sense is manufactured. Never mind that the narrative is fiction. It feels true, and feeling is believing. We're drawn to dark psychology, not because it's rare, but because it reveals uncomfortable truths about ourselves. The uncomfortable truth here is that most of your beliefs are not chosen. They're conclusions your nervous system reached to feel safe, to feel oriented, to feel like the universe isn't just a random collision of particles that occasionally produces suffering for no reason at all. You believe in karma not because you've seen evidence for it, but because the alternative, that good people suffer and bad people prosper randomly, is intolerable. You believe in a just world because believing otherwise would mean accepting that everything you've worked for could be destroyed by pure chance. You believe people get what they deserve because admitting they don't would mean admitting you might not either. Your beliefs are emotional insurance policies. They're not about truth, they're about comfort. And the architecture of that safety? It's made of stories. Stories about who you are, why things happen, who's to blame, what it all means. You'd rather have a painful story than no story at all, because no story means chaos, and chaos means your ego, that border guard, has nothing to defend. So you harden your positions. You curate your information diet. You follow people who confirm what you already believe. You unfollow people who challenge it. You enter spaces where your worldview is reinforced and avoid spaces where it's questioned. Not because you're closed-minded, but because you're terrified. Certainty is the drug. Doubt is the withdrawal. And most people will choose the drug every single time. This is why changing someone's mind is nearly impossible. You're not arguing with their logic. You're threatening their sense of safety. You're asking them to let go of the handrail in a storm, to admit they might have been wrong, to tolerate the vertigo of not knowing. And for most people, that's too much to ask. But here's the revelation. The opposite of certainty isn't chaos. It's freedom. The ability to hold ideas lightly, to update beliefs when new information arrives, to say, I don't know, without feeling like you're losing ground, to exist in the tension of paradox without collapsing into binary thinking. Wisdom isn't about knowing more. It's about being comfortable knowing less. Part 6. The game you can't refuse. Constructed realities. Let's go deeper. You think you see reality. You don't. You see a reconstruction, a simulation your brain builds from fragments of sensory data, filtered through memory, trauma, culture, language, and biology. What you call the world is a personalized hallucination, and you share it with no one. This is the 6th game, the one where your perception becomes your prison. Neuroscience has confirmed what mystics have said for millennia. You don't experience reality directly. You experience a model of reality your brain constructs in real time. It fills in gaps, edits out inconsistencies, highlights what it deems important, and deletes what it considers irrelevant. And it does all of this without asking your permission. You don't see what's there. You see what you expect to see, what you're trained to see, what you're afraid not to see. Two people can witness the same event and walk away with completely different stories, not because one is lying, but because they processed it through completely different filters. Your past shapes your present. Your trauma creates blind spots. Your culture determines what you notice. Your language limits what you can think. You are not observing reality. You're interpreting it. And interpretation is never neutral. Every abuser understands this instinctively. They don't need to control reality. They only need to control your reality. They rewrite the past. They redefine words. They make you question the things you saw with your own eyes. They isolate you from other perspectives. They become the sole narrator of your shared story. And slowly, your version of events starts to match theirs. Not because they're more persuasive, but because perception is malleable. And the reason it works? You've already been playing this game with yourself. You rewrite your own history every day. You soften memories that hurt. You sharpen memories that serve you. You construct narratives that make you the hero, the victim, the misunderstood genius. You forget the times you were wrong and remember the times you were vindicated. You delete evidence that contradicts your self-image and amplify evidence that supports it. Your autobiography is fiction, and you believe every word. The people who manipulate you are simply hijacking a process you've been running your entire life. They become co-authors of your reality. And the most tragic part? You let them. Because it's easier than admitting you never had authorial control in the first place. But here's where it gets truly unsettling. If your perception is constructed, then so is your sense of self. The you that you think is observing reality, that's constructed too. It's not a thing, it's a process, a verb pretending to be a noun, a pattern of activity that's convinced itself it's an entity. Alan Watts asked, "Who is it that's observing your thoughts? If you can observe your thoughts, you must be separate from them. So, who's the observer? And if you can observe the observer, who's doing that observing?" Keep going, and you'll find there's no solid ground, no core self, just layers of observation, observing observation, observing observation, until the whole thing dissolves into pure awareness. You are not a thing that has experiences. You are experiencing itself, temporarily convinced it's a person. And if that's true, if the self is a construct, if perception is a hallucination, if reality is interpretation, then freedom isn't about seeing objective reality. That's a myth. Freedom is about recognizing that all reality is constructed and choosing consciously what you build. Part 7. The final game. The refusal of responsibility. And now we arrive at the last game. The ultimate one, the one you've been playing since you had language. You are not a victim, not in the way you think. Wait, before you react, before you marshal your defenses, before you start cataloging all the ways you've been wronged, hurt, betrayed, traumatized. Listen, this isn't about blame, it's about agency. Most people spend their entire lives outsourcing responsibility, blaming parents, society, partners, genetics, brain chemistry, bad luck, the economy, their childhood, their circumstances. And yes, those things shape you, wound you, limit you, create the conditions you're operating in. None of that is deniable. But they don't imprison you. You do that yourself. By refusing to acknowledge the one power you still have, the power to choose your response. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz and discovered the one freedom no one can take. The freedom to choose your attitude toward your circumstances. He watched prisoners in the same hellish conditions respond in completely different ways. Some became cruel, others became kind. Some gave up, others found meaning. Same circumstances, different responses. The danger isn't just in obvious manipulators. It's in refusing to see how easily the human mind can be bent, including by yourself. You've built a mythology where you're acted upon, where life happens to you, where your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are results of external conditions. And that mythology keeps you powerless. Because if you're not responsible, you're not capable of change. This is the final game, pretending you have no authorship over your existence. But here's the unbearable truth Jung spent his life trying to articulate. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Every compulsion you blame on instinct, every reaction you blame on emotion, every pattern you blame on the past, all of it, every single bit, is negotiable. You repeat the same arguments with your partner, not because they're insufferable, but because you're triggered. And being triggered means something unhealed in you is being activated. The argument isn't about the dishes or the schedule or the thing they said. It's about the wound underneath. And that wound? That's your responsibility to heal, not theirs to avoid. You self-sabotage, not because you're cursed or unlucky, but because success terrifies you. Because visibility means vulnerability. Because achievement means you can't hide behind potential anymore. The sabotage is protective. It's keeping you safe from the thing you claim to want. You stay stuck, not because you can't change, but because part of you doesn't want to. Because being stuck is familiar. Because the known misery is preferable to the unknown freedom. Because changing would require you to grieve who you've been. And grief is hard. You are the author, the actor, and the audience of your own tragedy. And the moment you accept that, fully, without caveat, everything changes. Not because acceptance makes the pain go away, but because it returns power to you. The power to stop waiting for rescue, to stop blaming the script, to stop playing the same scenes on repeat and expecting different outcomes. Machiavelli told princes how to control kingdoms. Jung told individuals how to stop being controlled. The synthesis? Understand the game, see it, name it, then refuse to play unconsciously. Because the moment you see the game, you're no longer in it. You're above it, observing, deciding, free. Epilogue. The player becomes the witness. So, what now? You've seen the 7 invisible games, the performance of the persona and the shadow it casts, the borrowed desires that drive you toward goals that were never yours. The ego's empire built on denial and defended at all costs. The weaponized wounds that make manipulation possible. The addiction to certainty that makes you cling to comfortable lies. The constructed reality that keeps you imprisoned in a story you didn't choose. And the refusal of responsibility that keeps you powerless. You can't unsee them now. That's the price of this knowledge. You'll notice them everywhere. In your relationships, in your thoughts, in your media consumption, in your midnight anxieties, in the mirror. And that noticing, that's not the end. It's the beginning. Because the real game, the only one worth playing, is the one where you stop being the pawn and become the player. Where you stop asking, "Who did this to me?" and start asking, "What am I building with this?" You are the architect of your own psychological prison, which means you're also the one who holds the key. The walls were always made of belief. The chains were always made of story. The door was always unlocked. You just had to stop believing in the walls long enough to walk through. This is the work. Not transcendence, not escape, but integration. Bringing the unconscious into consciousness. Reclaiming the projections. Healing the wounds. Choosing, moment by moment, who you become. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. It requires you to sit with the parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime avoiding. To admit the ways you've participated in your own suffering. To forgive yourself for the time you've lost. To grieve the person you thought you were. But on the other side of that grief, freedom. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of choice. Not the elimination of games, but the awareness to stop playing them unconsciously. You've been playing checkers while everyone else saw a chessboard. But now you see it too. The whole board. Every piece. Every possible move. The question is, what will you do with that sight? Like the video if it stayed with you. Tell me what hit you the hardest in the comments. And subscribe if you want more. This is MindX. Welcome home.